Imagine for a second a world where our ultimate survival doesn't depend on reaching for the stars, but on making a breathtaking, honestly kind of terrifying descent deep into the Earth. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're exploring one of the most astonishing architectural and psychological feats in human history. We are embarking on a cinematic journey to uncover civilizations that just abandoned the light of day and carved out vast, parallel worlds right beneath our feet.
Okay, let's actually dive right in with a story that feels straight out of the Twilight Zone. The year is 1963. A homeowner in the Cappadocia region of central Turkey is just doing some routine renovations on his basement. Nothing crazy, right? He casually swings a sledgehammer, knocking down a simple wall.
But what he discovers behind that wall, well, it isn't just packed dirt or old foundations. Instead, he uncovers this echoing abyss. It was literally like pulling back a curtain on a forgotten dimension. He had stumbled upon a hidden tunnel system leading straight down into an ancient, completely forgotten world that had been sealed away from the surface for centuries. What he found was Derinkuyu. And guys, this wasn't just some cave. It was an 18-story deep underground city, meticulously carved entirely by hand. Just picture an immense inverted skyscraper extending deep, deep into the Earth's crust, completely hidden from the outside world. It is an absolutely staggering testament to human ingenuity.
Section 1. The landscape of Cappadocia. To understand how this subterranean marvel was even physically possible, we first have to look at the unique geology up on the sunlit surface.
Under the harsh Anatolian sun stand these towering, totally otherworldly formations known locally as fairy chimneys. I mean, they look exactly like giant stone sandcastles scattered all across the valleys. But here's the thing, they aren't just beautiful to look at, they are the literal geological key to the underground cities. So let's break down how this landscape formed over roughly 55 million years. First, ancient stratovolcanoes blanketed the region in thick ash, which eventually compressed into a soft, sponge-like rock called tuff. Think of it kind of like dense floral foam. Second, subsequent lava flows capped this soft tuff with a hard, protective helmet of basalt rock. And finally, millions of years of wind, freezing winters, and rain eroded the softer rock away, leaving only the pillars protected by those hard basalt caps. Now, crucially, early humans figured out that this soft tuff could be easily carved with basic hand tools. But, and this is the genius part, it cured and hardened almost like concrete once it was exposed to the air.
Moving on to Section 2. The plunge into Derinkuyu. With that massive geological canvas in our minds, let's leave the bright surface and really begin our physical and narrative descent into the depths.
The most crucial question here is, why? Why go down there at all? Well, the surface world of central Turkey was brutal. Temperatures swung violently from a scorching 40 degrees Celsius in the summers to a freezing -20 in the winters. Even worse, this specific region was a major crossroads for invading empires. Romans, Arab armies, Mongols, you name it. Compare that chaotic surface to the underground. An eerie, constant, cool 13 degrees Celsius year-round. It was the ultimate thermal and tactical sanctuary, perfectly hidden from marauding forces. We are talking about a staggering plunge of 280 feet straight into the Earth. To put that into perspective for a second, that is roughly the equivalent of a 25-story building plunging straight down. And remember, this is absolutely wild. This was excavated entirely without modern engineering, without a drop of electricity and zero heavy machinery.
But, it wasn't just a few dozen people hiding in the dark. At its peak, Derinkuyu could shelter up to 20,000 people at once. Try to imagine the incredibly claustrophobic, yet totally awe-inspiring reality of 20,000 human beings, alongside all their livestock, living out entire military sieges lasting for months, all inside this totally enclosed stone space.
This brings us to Section 3, Engineering a Subterranean World. Because to keep that many people alive, this definitely couldn't just be a temporary bunker. It required genuine, genius-level engineering to sustain a fully parallel society.
Think of it as an ancient stone space station. The features they packed in here are just unbelievable. They built over 50 deep ventilation shafts to ensure that breathable air reached all 18 levels. They dug a 55-meter deep water well. They carved out elaborate chapels for worship, massive storage rooms to keep grain and citrus fruits completely fresh at those stable temperatures, animal stables on the upper floors, and yes, even functioning wineries. I mean, it was a fully realized, self-sustaining city.
You can kind of think of Derinkuyu as an ancient subterranean submarine meticulously designed to just outlast all the chaos happening above. And its absolute best defense? Invisibility. Archaeologists have actually discovered over 600 concealed entrances to the city, cleverly camouflaged within private courtyards and surface dwellings. An invading army could literally march right over the city and never even know 20,000 people were right beneath their boots.
But if an intruder did somehow find a tunnel, the defenders were definitely ready. The tunnels were deliberately carved super narrow, forcing enemies to awkwardly walk single file. And if needed, the inhabitants could deploy these massive, half-ton circular stone doors, resembling giant millstones. These would roll right across the passageways and could only be opened or closed from the inside. Basically, they functioned exactly like an ancient, impenetrable bank vault.
All right, Section 4, the psychology of darkness. As we practically hit rock bottom in our descent here, we really have to shift our focus. The engineering is brilliant for sure, but we must explore the profound psychological toll of living entirely removed from the sun.
I want you to just imagine the visceral reality of this environment. What actually happens to the human mind when it's subjected to near-complete sensory deprivation? Imagine living in single-file tunnels lit only by the flickering light of oil lamps, totally isolated from the horizon, the sky, and the sun for up to 6 whole months at a time.
Well, modern science tells us the physiological and mental breakdown in those conditions is severe. Without sunlight to regulate our circadian rhythms, humans in caves have actually been documented sleeping for up to 30 hours straight. The days just blur into one long, continuous night, very much like the disorientation you'd get in deep space travel or living on a submerged nuclear sub. You completely lose all concept of tracking time. Add to that the massive vitamin D deficiency from the lack of sun, and of course, the intense psychological isolation. Over generations, this intense, altered state of reality profoundly impacted the human psyche. The underground shifted from merely being a practical shelter to feeling more like a sacred, deeply mythical realm. Actually, it's highly likely that this prolonged subterranean isolation helped birth some of our most ancient human myths of the underworld, forever connecting the deep earth with mystery, death, and hidden knowledge.
Which brings us to Section 5, Modern Subterranean Survival. Let's ascend back to the surface and fast forward right up to today. Because, as you'll see, these ancient survival tactics aren't just dusty relics of the past. They directly connect to our current and future global climate crises.
Let's transport ourselves over to Coober Pedy, Australia. Today, approximately 60% of the town's entire population lives underground. Why? Well, because the surface temperature there reaches a completely brutal 52 degrees Celsius. That's about 125 degrees Fahrenheit in the peak of summer. But go just a few meters below ground, and their homes, their lounges, and get this, even their swimming pools, all remain at a perfectly stable, highly comfortable 23 degrees Celsius. And as we see in modern architectural studies, like those analyzing Earth-sheltered homes in Kuwait, the benefits of building downward are immense. You get unparalleled energy efficiency by absolutely slashing heating and cooling costs. Plus, you gain ultimate protection from extreme weather, wildfires, and natural disasters, all while requiring incredibly low exterior maintenance. It's a real game changer. However, we definitely have to consider the biological counterargument here. As author Will Hunt points out, and his words carry a pretty stark warning for us, despite the incredible thermal and climate benefits, humans are, fundamentally, biologically and physiologically, surface dwellers. Our bodies simply have not evolved to withstand a future where millions of people live out their entire lives permanently sealed underground without natural light.
Yet, if you look at history, it shows us time and time again that when the surface becomes hostile, we adapt. Around 12,800 years ago, during the Younger Dryas period, global temperatures crashed and weather patterns became violently unstable. From those ancient climate collapses to the invading armies of the Byzantine era, and now to our own modern extreme weather, humanity's deepest instinct for survival has always been tied to retreating into the earth.
So as our modern climate becomes increasingly unpredictable and the surface world faces unprecedented extremes, we are left with a pretty haunting question. Will humanity's ultimate survival strategy be a forced return to the shadows of the Earth? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible descent. I really hope this explainer leaves you with a profound new perspective on the very ground beneath your feet.